you need to complete the stress cycle so that your body knows, okay, it's done. So if you're running away from a tiger, your bones are pounding on the ground, you're running, you're getting that out, and then you're safe, it's going to complete naturally. But when it's something that is like a test or like a stressful email from a client, you're not necessarily going to go for a little run, right? You're just going to be like, okay, it's done. And so cognitively, you're like, we're good. But your body may need a little bit of help to complete that. And I was like, oh, this is the missing piece. This is the real integration of the mindset and all of the other things. First of all, somatically moving it through your body. So stomping your feet, shaking your arms, dancing around to music, helping to, move it through the body. Resting on the wall can help get energy out. And then doing something like breath work could be really good.
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started.
Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Bosch, and I'm here with my co-host,
Michelle Bosch. And today we have a very exciting guest, a very good friend. We've been trying to get her here on the podcast for a little while, but she had a good excuse. She just became a mom and she has a baby girl. And with that, I would like to introduce to you all Margy Feldhuhn. She's the CEO and co-owner of brainbase.com, a neurosomatic training company on a mission to help people rewire their nervous systems and reclaim joy, connection, and peace. She's also the CEO and co-owner of Interview Connections, which is originally how I met her, because we hired her company to help us, get on podcasts and get amazing guests also on our podcast. So with that, Margy, welcome to Becoming Wealthy. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you both so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Congrats on your baby girl. Yes, I'm like so excited every single time you post a baby pic online, and just all the things that she's doing and how curious she is and looking around and how seamlessly she has integrated, into the family, because the family is not just of humans there, but also a lot of kitties and puppies, and so on and so forth. So thank you actually for making the time, because you're a busy lady. You run two businesses, you have a baby girl. And I wanted to ask you, how did you stumble into this basically, brain-based, mission? And was it the result of running two businesses, or just because entrepreneurship is hard as heck, as we know? And with that comes a distillation of problems that are coming to entrepreneurs on a daily basis, the worst problems, usually the ones that our teams can't handle, and come to us, as owners. So tell us how this all started.
Yes, and what you're saying, exactly it. And just the amount of stress as the owner, even if you're not in a production role, you're holding all the responsibility, right? If something goes wrong, it's on you. You're the one who's on the line. So it was really interesting the way that it happened. We actually met because the founder of brainbase.com, Elizabeth, became a client of Interview Connections in 2020.
Okay.
And the team was booking her on podcasts. And my business partner, who had done the sales call with her, Jess, was like, I just did a sales call with this new client, and what she's doing is really interesting. She's regulating the nervous system. And I tried some of the things she's doing, and it really works. It's really cool. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so Jess and I both ended up getting really into doing this stuff, because I had been, like you and like so many people, so many entrepreneurs, on sort of a lifelong personal development, personal growth journey. And I love all of that stuff. I love mindset and manifestation and energy work and all of that stuff. And when I discovered this, at first I was a little confused, because applied neurology is a little strange looking. There's hundreds, probably thousands of neuro tools, and they look a little weird. Like some of them, it's like you're like massaging part of your ear, or you're breathing. There's tons of them that hit all different systems of the brain. But at first I was like, this is weird. And then I started doing it and I was like, oh, this is the missing piece. This is the real integration of the mindset and all of the other things. And I really it was just such a breakthrough for me, and it was like, as soon as I experienced it, I was like, "Everybody needs to do this. This is crazy," and this I really felt and I had struggled when I was younger, Sophia, kinda like your age, with a lot of, like, anxiety and stuff like that, and discovering this, not only did it help me with the stress of just being a business owner, but I felt like it resolved things that had been unresolved for me for so long that I don't think I even realized they were unresolved. And it was so transformational that I just became obsessed with it and Jess too. And we were talking about it all the time. And I ended up connecting with the founder. We became good friends. I was a client of hers while she was a client of ours, working one on one with her as well. And we just started working together to grow her business. Because I was like, "This is so great. Everyone needs to do this. Like, how come you don't have more people, like, in this? This is amazing." And so we started looking at where are people coming from? How are they finding you? Like, how is that path looking? And it just turned into this natural progression of, "Do you wanna just grow this together?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Great. Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
Because having a business like this that I'm such a passionate client of as well
Uh-huh.
felt like really cool.
That's awesome. So Sophia is starting, well, she's not starting, but she is sitting for example, her SAT
This
coming up
Saturday.
this Saturday. And she
And
said,
it's
well,
ideally the last time I wanna take it, so I have a little bit of pressure on me. Like, I can still take it in August and September, but I just wanna be done. I don't wanna take it anymore.
but with wanting to be done comes, the fact
Pressure,
that
anxiety, nerves.
there's a lot of stake, and with that comes the anxiety, the nerves, the stress of like, oh my gosh, I need to perform at a high level. You know what I mean? And so what
For a
what
long period of time.
for a long period of time, what can she do going into the test? What are some of the things that, for example, you do in stressful situations like this, where you some of them you cannot anticipate, as a business owner, like crap just happens and you just got to respond. But here we have a date. We know we need to be at a certain spot, for the test at a certain time. And so planning, making sure that we're not late, that we're not running late, that we have a good night's sleep, that we have a good breakfast. Those are things that we think are, in our control, and
They are.
but also how we show up for this test in terms of like our nervous system being regulated. Now that I hear more about what you just described, seems to also be someone in our control as well as how
Yeah,
we show up for the.
or also adding on to that, how like, what are some strategies that I could do, but also, strategies that help, I guess, push away other people's energy, because it's a room full of 100 kids sitting for a SAT. It's like 100 teenage students that are nervous. Like, there's a lot of crazy energy in there. So, what can I do to also, like, push that and, like, be with myself only?
That's a great question.
It's a loaded question,
It's a
right?
lot, but
It's a loaded question. First, I think the most important thing to remember is that when we're regulating our nervous system, the goal is not to flatline. It's not that we're just calm all the time. We're going to get activated and excited and nervous. It's really that we want to modulate. So we want to be able to go into an activated state when it's appropriate and then be able to come back down and have our reaction be appropriate. So it's appropriate to be kind of activated and nervous. If you were at the level of fear that a lion is chasing you, that would be an inappropriate level of activation. So I think that's an important piece too. It's not bad to be anxious or nervous or dysregulated. We just want to be able to modulate. We want to be able to have tools so that we can help ourselves get through high stress times. We want to have somatic tools with the body to move stress through the body and complete the stress cycle after we do the stressful event like the test, so that we're not carrying that with us and then finding ourselves engaging in behaviors afterwards that we don't want to be engaging in, which can look like a lot of, it could look like eating a bunch of junk food and sugar and then not feeling good after. It could look like scrolling on our phone and dissociating more than we want to. So that's the first thing is we don't need to flatline. It's normal and healthy to be a little nervous about something like this. When it comes to brainbase.com focuses on neurosomatic tools. So neuro is the applied neurology and then somatic is the body. So processing, moving things through the body,
Okay.
processing emotions and stuff like that. An important aspect of it, though, is that it is very individualized. So, one of the things we walk people through on the membership is how to assess and reassess your own nervous system to know which tools are positive or negative for you, because you might take a tool that somebody else is really positive for them, and for you, it might not be positive at all. And so I'm careful not to give too many tools because for somebody who it's not positive for, it could actually make it worse for them. But there are some super basic things that are pretty
Yeah.
harmless that I would definitely feel comfortable sharing. Um, I think first of all, somatically moving it through your body. So, stomping your feet, shaking your arms, dancing around to music, helping to, yeah, like move it through the body, especially because you're then going to be sitting. And then I think there's a lot of good breath work tools that tend to be very gentle. Like you could do straw breathing, inhale for 2 counts, and then you purse your lips like a straw to create a little resistance and exhale for 6. So it's just breathing in for 2 and then exhaling like you're breathing out through a straw. You can also use a straw for 6. Really gentle way to kind of settle your nervous system when you're in an activated state and you don't want to be. I think one of the big things to remember is that you want to balance the somatic, the stress and the emotions with the tools. You want to try and release the energy and then regulate, because if you try and regulate over it, it's not going to work. So
How do
I
you
would
release it?
getting it out of your body, pressing on the wall can help get energy out, shaking, and then doing something like breath work could be really good while you're sitting there because it's subtle. No one's gonna know you're doing it, but it can help you get a little more grounded. And then I would say after the test, release that energy. So stomping around, running around, dancing around, show your body that the stress cycle is complete and that it's over. And then you can do some breathing or tools around that too if you need help like settling down.
What exactly is the stress cycle?
So the stress cycle is just what your body naturally goes through when there's some type of stressful event. So if you think about the old parts of your brain, if you were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, there would be a lot of fear. And then you would go into either fight or flight, probably flight, I'm going to say, because they are pretty scary. And then you need to complete the stress cycle so that natural your body knows, okay, it's done. So if you're running away from a tiger, your bones are pounding on the ground, you're running, you're getting that out, and then you're safe. It's going to complete naturally. But when it's something that is like a test or like a stressful email from a client, it's you're not necessarily going to go for a little run, right? You're just going to be like, okay, it's done. And so cognitively, you're like, we're good, but your body may need a little bit of help to complete that, to know like, okay, we're moving it through, we're getting all the energy out, we're complete now and we can relax. And, you know,
You
it's
can
like
use breath
when you
work,
finish.
dancing, shaking, you like basically some of the things that she did. Probably during the test, I would say the breath work is probably your best bet because otherwise,
And
people
look
are gonna
like a crazy
you might look to the rest of the people there like a crazy person unless you have like attentive. They give you
They
like a
get 10 minutes
break. Yeah.
but it's really only
Go to the restroom, eat something, and then kind of like shake off a little bit and then get back to it. That is so interesting, Margie, because we have had a conversation with
Mhm.
Sophia about sometimes as entrepreneurs needing to compartmentalize. And and I think that we've been doing it all wrong. As in, like, yes, you can compartmentalize, But there's an extra step that it just dawned on me that we have been missing, which is the releasing of that whatever stressful conversation that you had, like physically doing something to release it, not just staying there seated and kind of like just mentally, shake it off to move on to the next thing. Because, like you said, your body has incredible wisdom, and it's still, I think, in the prior event, trying to um almost force itself to be present and be in a different state for the next Zoom meeting or for the next
Yeah.
person. And so I just wanted to mention that because we were just talking about this even yesterday. I think about compartmentalizing, and as she was speaking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that we need to add to the, okay, we put that in a little box, and then we move on to the next thing, but we don't just put it in a box, but we need to address it physically in some way, shape, or form, and calm down to kind of start the next cycle of stress. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Great fact.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and because that can look like suppression if we're compartmentalizing, and sometimes we do have to compartmentalize, right? We'll have, like, a stressful personal situation, and we'll have to get on a work call, and we'll just have to handle it. But having these tools so that even if you have to push through that, but then you get off the work call and you can process some emotion, you can regulate your nervous system, it really is helpful, and it avoids burnout and things like that that can happen when we're suppressing and repressing things instead of just letting our body go through the natural cycle that it wants to go to. And the brain wants to protect you. The brain doesn't want you to hit your full potential. It would maybe prefer that you didn't. For safety reasons, a nice, small, safe life is maybe ideal for your brain. And so if we don't work with our brain and our nervous system, especially as entrepreneurs going for really big goals, in its effort to keep us safe, our brain can sabotage us. So it knows that things like extreme burnout, where we're just like exhausted, we have to clear our calendar, the brain causes that because it knows that you need to rest. The stress is getting too high. You're not processing your stress through your body. And so it'll just like basically unplug you and plug you back in because it wants to keep you alive. It knows that prolonged chronic stress is dangerous. It can cause disease. And so it will intervene. A lot of people get migraines because they're not processing their stress. They're really overloaded. And a migraine is a really efficient way to get you to lie down in a dark room with no sensory input and not do any work and do anything.
So you finally can calm down. Or sometimes, when you're stressed, you sometimes say, oh my God, or towards the end of the school year, where you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling like sometimes even like nauseous from the stress. Is the body saying,
I also
okay,
like use hair.
I've had enough, please give me some rest. And unfortunately, like you were in finals, you had to, you had
There's
to
no
push
way I can no
through.
perform. Yeah.
But sometimes we also need to remember that what we have in our mind as like, oh my gosh, it's final, it has to be on this day at this time, that if God forbid something, big would happen in our family, or for whatever reason, or you got really seriously ill or got into an accident, that test is not the end of the world, and that it can always be retaken, at a later
Yeah.
point in time,
That's
and
true.
perhaps just your grades are delayed by a week, but that not everything is final. Because I think, Margie, and I don't know if this
They
happens to
make
you,
it sound like
but I used to be the person that would say, "Oh my gosh, it needs to happen at this time on this day." Like, and there's certain things that, like, you need to perform. Like, you're running a big promotion or a launch or a master class or whatever, and you have people that have registered that are counting on you. Like, you show up. But if it's something where there's a possibility to ease your schedule, to basically honor your nervous system and what your body is telling you, it's okay. Nothing is the end of the world. Other people are understanding of, sometimes needing to reschedule things and to open up a little bit more breathing room, so
yeah.
that the body and the brain can have I would say, the completion of that cycle of stress, and you can relax and prepare for the next one. So thank you for bringing this, because it's actually so timely to what we're living right now, with her being a junior or just finishing junior year. which was incredibly tough, you know.
Okay, yeah, they say like junior year is like your hell year, and I thought they were exaggerating. They weren't.
Just because a lot of the grades that you're using, basically the grades that you're using for applications to universities are these grades, and you not only have to be doing academic stuff, but extracurricular stuff. Because, like Sophia likes to say, it seems like all these universities or colleges in general, their education is trying to get them to become adults before they're even full adults, you know?
Yeah,
And I don't know if you have any research or know of anything like as far as like brain development and
if that's
what's
even
going on in
healthy.
preteen years, you know, and the stress that comes with those preteen years and hormonal changes and this and this and that and life changing decisions that seem like they need to be made. Do you have any research or anything that you know of, like kids in this age group and the stress that we're creating for them, you know, unnecessarily sometimes?
I don't have anything specifically like research, but I
Yeah.
do have my own experience, and I have to say having 2 businesses and a baby, school was more stressful.
Yeah.
I think the amount of stress I think someone needs to look at the school system and what it's
Yeah.
really meant to do, and if it's really serving, because like you're saying, the amount of stress that's being created, I don't know what it serves, because
Yeah.
I do think the real world is actually less stressful
Mhm.
than school stuff. Like, I do think it gets easier. So I think what you're saying, Michelle, is just like the cognitive piece. Sophia is like, it's okay. Even if you had to retake this test, it would be okay. I think they try and make you think that every little thing right now is going to determine your future success, and that
I
isn't real. That isn't real, and I don't wanna,
Yeah.
like, encourage kids to, like, slack off, but it's not real. What you're practicing right now is, like, how to perform, like, how can I show up and do a good job? Each individual test and thing doesn't on its own actually matter. You're just like building this muscle, and building the muscle of how to do it in a way that doesn't feel as stressful is something that I wish that I had practiced actually, because then I got out of school and was able to perform, but being really anxious was so linked to my ability to perform that I was afraid to relax, because I was afraid if I wasn't anxious, I wouldn't be able to perform. So I feel for you. I think everybody your age is under so much stress, and the truth is that there's people who do really well academically who struggle when they get out of school because they don't have clear ideas of how to start businesses or become successful without those parameters. They're lost, and there's people who struggle in school who get out and crush it in the real world, and there's everything in between. So that's all to say it's great to learn how to do this and to flex this muscle, and also these things aren't, like, truly gonna decide your future success. The fact that you have such incredible parents who love you so much and are so smart and have so much to share with you, you could bomb everything academically and you're still gonna crush it because you have such incredible education and wisdom in your house. And I'm not Jack, if you listen to this, I'm not telling her to bomb everything. I don't want her to be stressed, because it's nice to enjoy this time too, because 'cause you're
Yeah,
gonna look back
exactly.
and be like, "I was so young and I spent it being so stressed out."
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
because I will say that compared to like I don't know why they do this, but middle school, like my high school is like this junior year compared to my middle school. My middle school since 5th grade through 8th grade felt every single year of it like my junior year. I don't know how I did it at such a young age. And then once I got to high school at a different school, they were much more lenient.
yeah.
Like they
I
say, if you have like big assignments on a day, you can talk to one of your teachers. You can move one of them. Like it's all like, but it's still like you're fine. Like you take one test, you don't have many retakes. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of final, but they are a little bit
Lenient.
less
Or lenient. So there's two components, I
strict.
think, Sophia. So there's
But
like
I don't know how.
some pressure that is self-imposed, because I think
Yeah,
there was a little bit of self-imposed pressure, this year,
there was.
but also some artificial, I would say.
Like the college counselors telling you like, oh, you need to have like your grades really good this year. Make sure you keep that GPA, whatever.
Yeah.
Like start going into a bunch of extracurriculars, leadership activities, whatever. Start a nonprofit. I'm like,
She's like, bro, I'm just a kid. And so instead of us starting things, so what we did with Sophia is like, we found a really good nonprofit and I know that you actually come from the nonprofit world before, being an entrepreneur. We found something called the LLS, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And because they already had a structure, for fundraising
for
and
kids, for kids.
kids, exactly, and how to build teams. And so she learned about, characteristics that you want to look for when building a team, which is, it happened to be a fundraising team for a nonprofit. But I'm like, if you were to build a team for a company, you would
There'd
look
be
for
similar.
similar characteristics and go about it in the same way. And then once you have your team,
But that had a whole stress
yeah,
in itself.
yeah, you have goals and so on and so forth, and you break those goals down into little chunks and so on and so forth. So there was a lot of like, how,
And there was also a pressure to win the competition
but
too.
how can we take
Like,
a big goal and for our nervous system, bring it down into bite-sized pieces that they can, consistently, weekly be addressed, so that something that feels super, super big can become manageable, not just mentally, like operationally from the point of view of having the time for it, but also, from a nervous system perspective, have the bandwidth, to be able to do all these things. And anyways, we're going on a tangent here
yeah, but actually that would be an interesting question. Like, you do run two businesses. You have now a baby at home. Um like how do you do that? How do you make a big girl turn it into smaller bite-sized pieces? Like, do you do that of course, like, nervous system regulation, but also, like, certain strategies, meaning scheduling, like, what's your process? It
well,
might not work for everyone, but
well, you can't schedule the baby's
well,
just
the
there, but I'm
babies,
sure.
yeah.
But do you have any, like, how do you handle the two businesses that you run?
You scheduled me, though. You had me on a tight schedule.
We schedule the baby. So
Yeah, see?
so my wife with the baby, my wife and I have shifts during
Uh-huh.
we had shifts, night shifts when she wasn't sleeping through the night yet, and day shifts, and now we just have day shifts. So every 3 hours we switch who's on baby duty so that the other person is free to go take a walk or do whatever they want to do, because otherwise we felt like we were both on duty all the time.
Yeah.
But back to something relatable for a 17-year-old. With reverse engineering, I mean, the nervous system piece is big. So regulating your nervous system intentionally every day, and that's like the hygiene piece. And then having those tools that you use when you get dysregulated. So maybe I did my neuro video on brain base that morning, and then I get a stressful email or something or a Slack message from a team member. And then I'll do some quick tools there. So I'm doing the daily hygiene, but I'm also doing those like rescue drills as needed.
Okay,
In
what is this thing that you do at the beginning of the day? What was it? You said you do I do my something video?
Yes. So brainbase.com, the Rewire is a membership site. And so it has a whole library. There's live classes and also on demand classes. So I will do an on demand class every single morning. They can range from like 15 minutes to like 30 minutes, just like kind of doing a workout class, but it's for my nervous system. And so that's how I do that every day to just expand my capacity for
Mhm.
stress and to handle everything. And then I also use tools as needed. So I have kind of both of those pieces. Um,
Mhm.
and then reverse engineering, I use a Google Calendar. I schedule everything out. So when I'm doing a project, I set like target dates. Like we're creating this program right now. So it's like, okay, when do we want to launch the program? Okay, we want to launch the program here. Okay, that means when do we need to have all the modules set up? That needs to happen by this date. Okay, then when do we have to have all the modules recorded? That has to happen by this date. And then going into the calendar, now I have this list of like target dates. And then I go into Google Calendar and actually schedule in everything. So, how many hours is it going to take to do this? Put it on the calendar so it's like in reality. So, I love to reverse engineer stuff like that. I find it really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Margie, you mentioned there, that so you do you set up your day, expand capacity, similar to, grandma does her prayers in the morning, or I do my meditation in the morning, or Papa does whatever he loves reading a little bit in the morning or listening to a book. That's basically his way to kind of like prepare himself for the day. This is specific to, neuro based, modality that we're discussing with Margie that she does. But then you also mentioned, Margie, that during the day that you'll resort to certain tools. So can you give us an example of a stressful situation that it would and what would it trigger? For example, if you don't mind opening up a little bit about what would it trigger in you, and what does that tool look like, or modality or exercise look like that you would do to basically not suppress it, but actually regulate, whatever is going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first, for what it looks like in me, externally, nothing. And that's the thing about really high performers. They don't necessarily show when they're getting dysregulated. They just like keep taking the hits and keep going. And I think that's a reason that high performers sometimes don't take care of their nervous system and their body because they can power through and perform at a really high level. And people don't know that there's turmoil under the surface. So
You're like the duck. The duck looks super elegant, and in the bottom,
exactly. I actually used that analogy the other day about this exact thing. Yeah, the feet are like kicking away, but they're just gliding along on the water. So an example could be a client issue. Like I could get a message that we can't get in touch with this client, or this client reached out and they were unhappy about something, like a host canceled on them last minute for a podcast and the client is upset. And so I would use a tool for something like that. I do I have a few tools. So you learn to assess and reassess. Like really simply, when something is good for your nervous system, it increases your mobility. So little things like testing the mobility of your shoulder. So you can test your shoulder mobility or your neck mobility by seeing how far you can turn your head to either side. And then you can do something and then you reassess with the same thing. And if you increase mobility, it was positive for your nervous system. So through doing the videos on brain based and doing different tools all the time and assessing and reassessing, I know that I have a lot of tools that are always positive for me. And so those high payoff tools are what I would use in that moment. So something like I have a little essential oil here. I do a little cranial nerve 1 stimulation where I cover one nostril. I smell that in the other nostril. Sometimes I tap, and that I know is a high payoff tool that stimulates cranial nerve 1 for me, and it always relaxes me. If it was something bigger than that, say something really big, like that was really stressful, in that situation, I would need to process the emotion of it before I did a tool. So there's things that can be really frustrating. Maybe a team member who's really important quits, or we have to fire someone, something that's really emotionally
Mhm,
charged like that.
mhm,
For something like that, I would want to release the energy of that emotion, process those emotions somatically, and then I would do a tool. So that's what that would look like. And you can process emotions. If you're frustrated, you can literally like scream into a pillow or like scream in your car, somewhere where you're not going to like scare anybody. But that can help to really get it out. Stomping your feet, shaking can get it out. And then
mhm,
once you kind of feel that charge leaving your body, then you can do something that regulates your nervous system, a high payoff tool.
mhm, mhm. You talked about cranial nerve 1. Tell me response, or what tell us a little bit about that. What is it?
So Cranial nerve 1 is the nerve that is activated when you smell something. There are
Oh.
tons of nerves. I have not memorized all of them, and there's different input systems. So, the thing about applied neurology and neurosomatics that's really cool is that it really takes the personalness out of certain behaviors. So,
Mhm.
something is an output. If it's like nausea, migraine, even like yelling at somebody, getting really stressed and like snapping at someone and regretting it, overeating. There's all types of outputs that are nervous system outputs. That's your brain's way of lowering the amount of stress in that stress bucket when it's getting too full. And so
Okay.
what we talk about in neurosomatics is rather than trying to control the output, which is what a lot of us do, we'll go to the output and try and force ourselves to stop doing whatever it is or push through it or whatever,
Mhm.
we change the input. So instead of trying to wrestle with the output, we're changing the input with the neurosomatic tools. And when we change the input, we then start to get different outputs.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
interesting. Interesting. Yes. So, my goodness, we could learn so much from you, and I'm sure. Are you sharing any of this stuff, like for example, with on the interview connections part, like in helping some of your clients with preparing for podcasts? I know you guys, of course, help in all the preparation of the one sheets and creating a personal story and how to show up and camera, all the tactics, but this more subtle work, do you share any of this stuff with your clients, Margie?
That's a great question. We've done some like one-off trainings, but I don't consistently share that. But that's a good idea because with visibility, like being on a podcast, it can
Yeah.
be very dysregulating for the nervous system because visibility can feel really threatening to the brain. So that's a good idea. Maybe we'll have to work that in because we're organizing some trainings for interview connections clients now. So maybe we do need like a neurosomatic podcast preparation training.
Yeah, absolutely. What about with team? Um, do you share any of this stuff with your team on how to handle perhaps a customer that is upset because the episode or the recording got canceled, or do you share any of this? Like, how, how are you? Are you doing it just for you, or are you sharing it with others?
That's a
Um,
great question. I would say we did share it with the team more initially. It's primarily me and Jess. Like,
okay.
we will send each other videos back and forth, like, hey, I did this brain based video today. And then we'll also be like, why don't you take some time to like regulate if you need it? Or like, we're playing with like regulating around different things. Like, we've been playing with regulating around money coming in actually and looking at
Ooh,
creating
tell me about
safety.
that.
Well, so in creating this program, this neurosomatic program for entrepreneurs that we've been building, it's actually connected a lot of dots for me. And
Oh,
one of the things that we're looking at is like in receiving abundance. And of course, people know that they can get dysregulated from losing money and stuff like that.
yeah.
But I think
Yep.
more entrepreneurs then realize it, get dysregulated by receiving money or by certain levels of success. And so
Mhm.
Jess and I are running this experiment of doing neuro drills every time we get a payment in to see if by creating safety in the brain around receiving money will manifest even more money, which so far actually it is working.
Oh my god. So even like for you right now, it can apply to money, but it could be like every time you have a good grade, you're like you could do some of this so that you can receive more. I mean, it's not.
That's big performance.
Yeah,
That's
so it
just
doesn't mean that you're not going to study in order to get a good grade in the next test. So it
hard.
doesn't mean that Jess and Margie are not going to do the marketing, the showing up, the things that are required in order to gain a prospect and gain a sale. Those things are still happening. But this is, I think, more subtle work, kind of like invisible work that kind of like prepares your body to, I would say, receive. Yeah, to receive, to be much more of an open vessel for more, because you cannot fill up a cup that is already full.
That's true.
So with water, that makes complete sense. So I love
That's
that. I love that.
interesting. I like
um Now, what else did we want to ask? Anything else that you had for Margie, as far as um, I think the best thing would
Yeah,
be for us to go into brainbase.com and
I think
basically
so too.
um explore what is there, or is there any guidance that you can give us as like, okay, if I was a person that wanting to learn more about this, I would go first here or there. Like, is there any guidance that you would have for us?
Yes. So we do have a 2-week free trial that is freeneurotrial.com. We'll redirect right to the 2-week free trial for the membership site.
Okay.
And on the membership site, when you sign up, there's a 90-day journey that really goes through like step by step. It's like a whole series of videos that takes you through first foundational concepts and then moves through more like how to regulate. I definitely recommend at least the first few videos to kind of get
Okay.
the concepts, and then you can also just do videos on the site depending on how much time you have and the length,
Okay.
but I think that's a great way to get started.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Margie, for being here with us and, just helping us understand a little bit more about just in general, stress cycles. The fact that, we know consciously, that there's no lion chasing us, but
It for some reason it
but feel
feels that
but you
way.
brought it home today that sometimes knowing mentally that doesn't mean that it translates to the body, actually knowing and understanding that basically we're not in a situation like that, and that there's things that we can do aside from, setting our day for success with certain, practices, that in between we should be doing a little bit. I don't want to add the word should, but that it would be good, uh or a good idea,
Beneficial.
beneficial, to help us prepare and move throughout our day from one thing, to the next and to the next and to the next. And I bet you that since you started doing, were you able to sleep better?
Yes. There's been
Yeah.
so many unexpected benefits that I went to, like, lower anxiety and stress, especially with the businesses, but I got all these different benefits, and one of them is I sleep much better. I don't get as, like, neck tension. I don't get eye twitches anymore, which I used to
Yeah.
get, and I will add, and I think, Sophia, this is really relevant for you and people your age, but really for everyone. The amount of stress and threat from achievement is much higher if it's connected to your identity and your sense of self. And so I love the theory of a growth versus a fixed mindset. The idea that a fixed mindset is like, this is who I am, I'm either smart or I'm not, I'm good at this or I'm not, and that's who I am. And there's a big tie with your current skill set to your identity. And a growth mindset is I'm learning and changing all the time. I can always get better at things. And that cognitive shift really will lower your stress a lot because things like taking tests or big things in your business, they're not as threatening if you're like, even though I care about this, I care a lot about this outcome, I can uncouple this from my identity or my self-worth as a person.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this was gold right there. This was definitely gold, especially in an environment, again, in a school environment where, I think many kids, unless they practice a sport or something like that, academics can be tied to their who their identity is,
Yeah.
and very, very, very helpful information right there for sure. So thank you for mentioning that as like kind of like the cherry on top on today's, time together. Margie, so you did mention there was a place for people to go. Can you repeat that again for it was a free
Yes. Freeneurotrial.com, free,
free
Free, neuro, Neuro, trial, like
yeah.
trial.com will take
Uh-huh.
you right to a 2-week free trial of the Rewire membership on the brainbase.com site. And that's a great way to start learning. There are live classes and the facilitators and teachers are incredible. So if you can go to a live class and afterwards you can ask as many questions as you want. So that's also a really fun way to get started.
Are you a facilitator with them?
I am not. I think I'm going to start teaching a class. I'm not sure when, but
Okay.
I do the classes right now, and they're really, really good.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so very much. And if you're interested, for those of us that are watching or listening, if you're interested in anything that has to do with the podcasting world and getting on, people's podcasts and bringing amazing guests to your podcast. Like I said earlier, Margie is the CEO and co-founder of Interview Connections, and she and Jessica Rhodes run this company now for almost how many years? 10, 15 years?
Jess founded it in 2013, and I came on in 2016. So a over a decade for Jess, close to a decade for me.
Yeah. And I have to say that, it's been from the very first time that we hired you ladies, it was at least transformational for me and helping me craft, my story and how to present myself because visibility can, for somebody starting out can be, like you said, a little bit nerve-wracking, when you get on podcasts and you don't know the host, and all the strategies that you guys teach are just amazing. And you're I always say you're much more than just a podcast guesting, agency trying to do matchmaking, but you actually have a team of dedicated, people that are doing research, that are really making sure that you are a good fit for the people's audience, based on what you're bringing, to the table. So, yeah, so I wanted to make sure I give you a plug for that too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being with us. If you love today's podcast, if you want to learn more about it, you know where to go. You can also follow Margy on Instagram, Margy Feldhuhn. And thank you so much. Give us a 5-star review, and looking forward to spending another episode with you on the next recording of the Becoming Wealthy podcast.